Hello, everybody. My name is Anya Aleman, Innovation Director at Ascender. If this is not your first time at one of our Ascender events, welcome back. It's nice to see you. I can see some friendly, familiar faces. If this is your first time at one of our events, I wanted to say thank you for being here and for joining us today. Ascender is Pittsburgh's community for entrepreneurs. We offer educational programs for people who have an idea and want to start businesses. We have a year-long incubator program. We offer educational programming that happens twice a month, such as this one. And we also have a variety of digital resources, to really help you get kickstart that idea that you have in mind or continue building your business. I wanted to say that today's event is part of our monthly educational programming theme. March theme is Branding Hero. March, as you all know, is coming to an end, but soon we will be launching a new theme in April called it will be all about pitching and how to improve your pitch. So we will be putting important information in the chat box for you to keep up with the themes, the resources that we're providing to you, and then continue to join us at all of our educational programs that we have. So as I mentioned, March theme is Branding Hero, and today's event is called Real Talk. Let's talk about marketing. We really are wrapping up the month with a really exciting Real Talk. Real Talk, as you may know, if you have attended one of our previous Real Talks before, we bring founders to really come to a safe virtual space and really inspire and offer a candid, honest discussion about learnings that they have gathered throughout their entrepreneurial journey. And today's session just happened to be under our monthly theme of marketing and branding. So we'll hear a little bit about that, but we'll also get to know a little bit more about our guests and learn about their entrepreneurial journey. If you have any questions, we will be checking the chat box just to see, any reactions. If you want to send some love to our speakers, or if something click, just share it with us. This is a space for us to really learn today and to ask those questions. And today's discussion will be facilitated by our Executive Director, Nadili Nunez. She will be introducing our guests today, and she will be kicking things off. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Nadili.
All right, welcome everyone. I hope you are ready for a good conversation. Yes, I am talking it up because these two entrepreneurs I admire, and I've been so impressed with just how much they've accomplished, but also how much they're willing to share their knowledge with other entrepreneurs, even beyond here. So please follow them, look at their work, learn from what they're doing, and learn from other opportunities where they speak. So yes, we will keep a peek at the chat, but we also had like 40 questions submitted by you all. So if it's not answered right away, it might be later. If it's your first time, sometimes we stay on topic, sometimes we don't. It's just the nature of it. So, but we'll start it off with our speed round as usual. One, of course, I need to introduce, sorry. We have Meredith from Wigle Whiskey. If you've bought from Wigle Whiskey, please write your favorite rum, favorite whiskey in the chat. I like their rum. It's delicious. And actually I have a Wigle Whiskey sticker on my laptop. I'm a big fan. And then of course we have Kyshira with her business in the Power Collective. And so she is also very involved. I just told her before all this, I feel like I know her, but she's a celebrity. It's like everyone knows a celebrity, but they don't know you. And hopefully at the end of this, I don't have a restraining order. Anyway, so we're going to get started with our speed round. And the speed round are just complete sentences. We can talk about stories, we can answer some questions, but let's just get some quick information out just to get warmed up. All right. So first, we're going to have Kyshira go first, just so you know. In my opinion, finish the sentence. In my opinion, the goal of marketing is to
tell a story and make a connection.
Nice. Man, straight to the point. Okay. Meredith, what about you?
I'm all with Kyshira. I'll go with create community.
Wonderful.
Sorry to interject. It's Kyshira.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kyshira. Sorry, Kyshira.
It's okay.
All right. So the next one is, I describe my company's brand as, Meredith, you go first this time.
Inviting.
Okay, nice. Kyshira?
I would say powerful.
Okay, nice. All right, next one is, tell me 3 tools, applications, or platforms that are great for marketing. Kyshira, you want to go first this time?
Google Analytics, keywords everywhere, and HubSpot.
Nice. All right, Meredith, you can't repeat any of the answers.
That's okay. I think I've got my own. I love SurveyMonkey. I love MailChimp. And I love whatever your point of sale system is. Ours happens to be Square.
Nice. All right. Hope you wrote those down. These are what top-notch people are using. All right, here's the next one. I spent money on blank and it was worth every penny. Whoever wants to go first.
A great marketing team, really talented people.
Nice. And we're going to talk about when do you hire a team? All right, Kyshira.
So I was going to say team as well, but I don't want to repeat. So my second best answer would be coaching.
That's a good one. All right. So similarly, I spent money on this and it was a waste.
So mine would be ads prematurely.
Okay, that's a good answer.
I don't think you have to spend money on marketing for many years. I know it sounds like most of the people in this room may be in startup mode. And I think if you're spending money on marketing in the early years, it's probably a waste.
And here, I also feel free to disagree with each other. It also depends sometimes in the business, whatever, not specific to this question, but there's an opportunity to also share perspectives because it's complex. Entrepreneurship is complex, but yes, there are a lot of ways you can market for free. There are a lot of tools out there. I think Kyshira has a lot of up her sleeve too. All right, so true or false? I incorporate my personal brand with my company brand.
So for me, it's true. I know we're not supposed to add anything, but I think it's a case by case though for people listening in. So when we get into the actual questions, I can go more into why that's true for me and who I would recommend that for.
Okay, great. What about for you, Meredith?
For me, I work to keep it separate.
All right, we'll get into that. True or false is our last one. I had a marketing plan from the beginning of my business creation.
False.
Meredith?
True. Whether we stuck to that plan is a different story, but we certainly had a plan.
Fair enough. All right, so we got a bunch of questions, but let's talk about that personal versus the business identity, marketing identity. So Meredith, why do you keep it separate? We'll start with you.
Well, for a number of reasons, I've always wanted the business to be bigger than an individual for a number of reasons. There's of course risks to, if it's tied too much to an individual. There's the idea of sustaining the business beyond a single person. I also felt like from a marketing flex perspective, if it's tied so much to the individual, that can be limiting in people's ability to engage and connect with a brand.
And that makes sense. And maybe we should take 1 minute if each of you can actually just talk about how you are, the lens of which you're responding to these questions. So maybe say, just one sentence, what your business does, how many employees you have, and what you hope to turn it into. Meredith?
Okay, sure. So I have Wigle whiskey and Threadbare cider, and I've started a couple nonprofits too. But we started Wigle actually more than a decade ago now. We're the first distillery in the city of Pittsburgh since Prohibition at that time. In the past 10 years, we've changed 3 laws in the state to do what we're doing. We've opened a total of 7 locations across Western Pennsylvania. We've produced, I don't know, maybe 100 plus new products, and we're distributed in about 15 states. We've also started 3.5 years ago a cider company, a hard cider company called Threadbare Cider and Mead, and we have 2 locations for that. And we also distribute throughout the state and throughout the Mid-Atlantic our hard cider as well.
Nice. All right. And Kyshira, I think for your business, it makes a lot of sense why you connect your identity. So yeah, tell us more, a little bit more.
Yeah, so officially, hi everyone. My name is Kyshira Moffett, and my business is actually a coaching and training practice. So the people that I've served has evolved over the years. I've worked with literally everybody, but present day, I primarily work with other coaches, consultants, speakers, and trainers. So when you're getting started in a service-based business, because we offer a service, we don't have anything to produce that can stand on its own 2 feet. We don't have a physical, and I've had physical products, right? So I know the difference where when I used to have physical products, I can go to a vendor showcase and not even say a word and the product would sell. But if I'm trying to sell you coaching, training, consulting, I almost have to lead with my credentials and my expertise, right? It's a part of that initial brand building process. However, I do feel that it is possible to start that way, but then scale differently. So I like to think about the StrengthsFinder Institute or John Maxwell, where when I worked in HR, we hired trainers from the John Maxwell Institute to come in and train on engaging millennials and things like that. So it really, that's why I had to get the caveat, like it's not appropriate for every person or industry, but if you are in services, it may honestly be the thing that gets your foot in the door to get you started. And it is possible to scale up as a thought leader where you don't actually have to be the person that's doing the things, right? You can have teams and trainers and consultants, but it's still your methodology and your intellectual property, your IP that you're marketing and selling, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit about what I do and how I've done it. And I'm even in that transition where I've had to stop referring to myself when I'm talking and start to say us, we, team here at the Power Collective versus me, the person, because I'm so used to it being that way, but it's not that way anymore. So you asked, when did we get started? So officially 2017, but unofficially 2014. I've been coaching, consulting, and training since I moved to Pittsburgh for different corporations, and really found my footing and went full time in 2017. And I actually intentionally have a very lean team because I do believe there's such thing as growing too fast. So right now we are a team of 6 and we're all women.
Wow, nice. So this actually is a great transition about evolving, right? You start at a certain time, things change. So how, for each of you, your marketing needs have changed from when you started to now? Whichever one wants to go first.
Kyshira, you want to go first?
Sure, absolutely. I just didn't want to seem like, the panelist that talks too much.
I'll stop you.
But no, I think that that's a great question around how marketing needs have changed, because I found that as my business has grown, I've needed to actually invest a little bit more in the people that I'm leveraging for my marketing, where now as the business scales, we need to be a little bit more widespread. Whereas when it was just getting started and I had very little capacity for clients, so I couldn't market too much, versus now where we have a really solid model where we can handle a huge amount of demand, where now I can't be both marketer and coach and curriculum development. So I found that now, where previously I could get away with a free version of Buffer and, my MailChimp and just be fine. Now I'm like, like, okay, I actually need a human. I need a whole human here that can manage this and help with the development of the strategy. And honestly, tell me to show up and film the video, right? Video marketing is huge in how I attract clients and customers. But that was a huge struggle for me as someone who marketing is my background. That is what I do, to then trust to hand that off. That was one of the biggest challenges with adjusting for my marketing needs.
That's a good point. I actually want to ask a follow-up question, particularly because of what you're doing or your line of work. It's your personality. You know, how do you, it's almost handing off your tone and personality to someone else. How do you find someone or train someone to do that?
Yeah, so it helps if they've already been following you, which I've been lucky. The people that I hire already are within like my community. However, a couple of years ago, I was smart enough to create my brand's voice. And while it mimics mine to a certain extent, I've even started, when I started to speak, I've incorporated certain inflections and certain vocabulary into when I speak so that it matches the voice of the brand. So I always joke and say, you know, I'm like the gecko from Geico, you know, like I'm the spokesperson, which means I have to follow the code. I have to follow the rule book. I can't go too far off script because my team can't mimic that. If everything is so off the top of my head, then there is nothing to document. And I am a big advocate of standard operating procedures and brand toolkits and having different things documented. So that is something that I did start earlier on, where we have a document of our tone, our inflection, our voice. When are we casual? When are we serious? Words we just do not say. We do have, well, when I was getting started, we did have a bit of a younger demographic. So I even have references to what in pop culture can we reference and what do we stay away from? Like what's a little too risque, right? So there's a running document for that.
You have it down. You really have it down. I don't know if some even larger organizations got it down like that. Meredith, for you, has it been the same? How has your marketing needs evolved?
Yeah, so I think for us, you know, the core of sort of what sets our sails for marketing has remained constant, but the market has changed quite a bit. And so how we operate within it has certainly evolved. But really the heart and soul of it has remained the same. When we started the distillery 10 years ago, you know, we entered a pretty sleepy category that was just about to become a lot more exciting. And, you know, we're lucky that we were early on in that movement, but it also meant that at the time we entered, really the core of our marketing efforts were education and meeting consumers where they were, because spirits were really a black box to everyone. Even really educated beer and wine drinkers didn't know a heck of a lot about spirits, and that's how the industry liked it. It was not an educational kind of space. And so every piece of the business we approached with an educational eye. We built out the distillery so that visitors would come and be able to follow in a linear path our production methodology, and we could tell the regional history while we did it. We, instead of, you know, hiring booth babes, which was the typical industry standard at events, we reached out to every institutional partner, from the Heinz History Museum to the Smithsonian to the Carnegie, and we developed the content or co-developed the content with them to come up with what we called, you know, edutainment. And that really remains the same. I think the other piece of our marketing that has remained the same is this relentless pursuit of innovation. So we dedicate about 10% of our production to innovation, which is a lot in the spirit space, just relatively speaking. It's not a lot, like if you compare it to beer or other, but in spirits, it's a lot. And that's remained true for us. And, you know we'd always make more money if we produced more of one of our core whiskeys than if we produced another quirky product. But, oops, I lost a bud.
Oh no.
But we're also, you know, it's part and parcel of who we are and what our consumers come to us for and expect of us, and what our own team expects of us.
So you used a word, allocating 10% for innovation. That we already established that if you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be spending much money in marketing. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing marketing, or you shouldn't be doing some kind of plan, right? And so when you're an entrepreneur, you're everything, right? You're your sales HR, you're your own, finance person, you're your own whatever. So it's hard, particularly when you're chasing money or trying to develop your product, to think about marketing, to allocate time or space in your mind for marketing. And so when you think of an early stage, maybe what would be 1 to 3 things, tangible things, someone logs off of this Zoom, they should be doing related to their marketing in terms of taking stock or signing up to something or considering something related to marketing?
Is that a follow-up for me? Or
That's for the both of you. For the both of you.
Kyshira, you go first.
Okay, so a couple of things that I think, and I want to make sure that what I say applies to everyone here. But one of the first things that I tell every new business owner to do is to just sit down and learn the industry, right? And learn it from a consumer perspective. A lot of times we go into it with what's the competitive landscape, which is fine, but we're not really understanding the consumer. And in the beautiful part of living in 2021 is that there's a ton of free consumer reports on Google, right? Like you can Google your industry, consumer reports, consumer trends, and really understand what consumers are saying. I think if you have a physical product, even better, because you can read reviews. And the point is not to figure out tweaks and changes. I mean, it can be, but it's really to understand the mind of the consumer. So when selling services, especially, like I have to thoroughly understand the desires, the pain points, the challenges, the mindset blocks that my customer has inside and out to prepare for those sales conversations. And even before then, prepare for the marketing that would even get them to the sales conversation. So that's where things like Google and Google Trends and all of that comes into play. So consumer research is one thing. The second thing I would say, this is kind of base level, but a lot of business owners don't do this. I would go and secure your company name across all the major social media platforms. Even if you don't plan to use them all, still secure your name, because even if, and I've had this happen with clients, even if you have the trademarks and things, it takes a while for the social platforms to turn stuff over to you if someone else has it. Like, it's a battle you really want to try to avoid. So just go ahead and secure your platforms, brand them out, secure your domain names. I don't know if you all know, but domain reselling is a whole business. People go and buy domains that they think will be popular or lucrative, and then they will resell them for thousands of dollars. So you may end up paying a lot of money for yours if you don't move quickly. So go and purchase the domain with that. And the third thing I would say to do for your marketing is to start leveraging your network. Start tapping to people that you know to see, do they have any referrals for you? Would they be willing to be a product tester for you? Before this video, I was just filming something for a friend who's launching candles. And she said, can you shoot a 15-second video for me as a commercial for my social media? Of course, right? So thinking about who in your network can you leverage to start getting the word out about your business.
Nice. That's great. Meredith?
Yeah, I would say we're talking about at the very beginning, right? Okay. I am with Kyshira, I'm sorry, that I would go consumer research. You got to have empathy for your consumer and know them inside and out and know their needs and wants and desires. And if you don't feel like you have a really great handle on that, you can get a really great handle on it really easily by just talking to people. So that can take a bunch of different forms. It can be, my 3 would be, do a survey, do a one-on-one interview, and do a whole bunch of focus groups with the people that you think you're solving a need for. And if they validate that, then you're bound to be successful. If they're not resonating with what you're delivering, it's not solving whatever need you think you've identified, then you really have to go back to the drawing board. And that can be a hard pill to swallow. I've definitely had, in the early days when I would do all the focus groups for our products, I would pretend like I would do like blind taste tests, for instance, with new products when we were entering new categories, and pretend like they were all competitive products and they weren't any of ours. And then I would straight face it the whole time. And when everyone would leave, I just go and cry because I just spent months of my life developing product that, you know, was not working for people. But you got to learn that before you launch a product, because there's nothing worse than launching a product that no one wants.
And that was one of, yes, that's a problem. I know we talk about this almost at every real talk. It comes up is the founder is in love with their idea or their product, and they're not really listening to who's going to use it. And because it's tough, it's like potentially hearing that your baby's ugly. So, but it's important in order to actually be successful. Now, speaking about when you're thinking about launching, right? You're early. We just talked about that kind of marketing, but is there a difference between marketing for a B2B company versus a B2C? What either of you can say, both of you don't have to go, but any opinions on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in my world, you know, we do both of those things. And I would say a B2B relationship, you know, has a different need set than a consumer. And I would say that neither is perfectly rational, but the B2B, you know, you're generally trying to make their life easier in some way. There's a functionality to the marketing there that is a critical piece of it. The consumer, I think it's a little bit easier to ladder up to emotional needs with a consumer. Not all the time, but you know, often convenience wins out amongst all needs, and that's a very functional need. But I think you can get to an emotional place, which is, as from a marketing perspective, far more fun to market to because of all the storytelling that we've talked about already and the connections you can make there. So I enjoy marketing in the B2C world more than the B2B personally, and that's, you can see that in, you know, our company reflects that in terms of how our sales break down.
Great. If there's nothing else, I'll go to the next one. So one of the questions is sometimes, Kyshira, did you have something?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So another question we have here is that sometimes you're an entrepreneur, and what's the difference between, or deciding between marketing your brand versus the product itself? So I think for Kyshira, it's very connected, right? Versus for Meredith, there's Wigle whiskey, right? And you know, there's the whole brand, the whole line, but then there's also, you have the fall flavors, you have the, so how do you determine how to allocate marketing efforts for each?
Yeah, I think, you know, each product has to be integrated into the brand identity and has to make sense as a brand extension to consumers. But each product is also an opportunity in our minds to extend the brand, maybe into a new place or a new segment or to a new consumer that we haven't touched before. So I'll give a couple examples of ways we've used products to extend our brand. You know, we're very place-based. We're very, you know, we talk about taste of place and regional taste a lot, and we do so much storytelling around this regional heritage that we have. But our production team is a restless crew. We want to explore flavors. And so the challenge we often have is, how do we explore different categories that don't have this immediate sense of Western Pennsylvania, but we want to explore from a flavor perspective. So we have a distiller who has spent a lot of time in Spain and has some Spanish roots. And he really wanted to do something with saffron. And so we dove into saffron, and we understood that Pennsylvania, I found a farmer in Pennsylvania who was trying to bring back this Pennsylvania Dutch tradition of growing crocuses and harvesting saffron flowers. And we thought, aha. And so we were able to develop this saffron amaro that is this very, you know, amari are generally Italian, and we were pulling saffron from Spain, but we were able to sort of tie it back through this storytelling to a Pennsylvania tradition. And so we, you know, in that way extended this Wigle very place-based product or brand into new areas. And we've done that similarly through partnerships. We partnered with this wonderful 5th generation mezcal producer, and did a barrel trade. And so we aged our rye in mezcal barrels, and we're able to create, through collaboration, some more product extension there. But, it has to make sense to the brand, and you can test that, when you talk to consumers and you ask them, should Wigle be doing this? They'll tell you. They'll tell you, no, you don't have the right to play in that space. Or yes, I would absolutely trust that you would make a product that plays there.
Great. So a question for you, Kyshira. How do I frame this question? How do you know if a campaign is, what kind of metrics should you look at to know if a campaign is doing well, or you need to scrape it, you need to stop, it's no good?
I love that. The interesting thing is the answer to that is it varies business by business, right? So we all have our different indicators that tell us when things are working. If you are a new business, my advice would be track everything, see your campaigns through to the end, because I've had a lot of campaigns in the beginning start lukewarm, and at the end we supersede our goal, right? So we have to also give our campaigns time to work. And even if you don't hit the goal, we need to be able to dive in and evaluate what didn't work. I do fear that if you are a newer business, if you pull the plug on a campaign too soon, you may miss that learning opportunity, and there may be too many unanswered questions to make tweaks. So for me in particular, some of the things that we look at include engagement on our social channels for videos in particular. Videos are huge with selling what I offer. And we look at things like shares, bookmarks, watch time, which all the platforms will give you now. How long are people watching? Facebook will even tell me the average age and location of people who are watching my videos, right? So we look at that to see if we're even getting the right people and are they engaged with it. Likes and comments don't bother me too much. They're vanity metrics. People can like every post and never buy from you. And I found also, because I know my audience, they're very introverted like me, and we're very shy. We don't really do a lot on social media, but we'll buy the whole the whole website, but we won't be the person in your comments saying we love this so much, right? So that's why I look at things. Well, are they sharing it? Are they bookmarking it? How long are they watching it? Am I keeping their attention? From there, I start to look at depending upon what part of the campaign I'm in, I look at my email subscription rates, because we always have some kind of email opt-in that goes along with it. And even for a while we did text opt-ins, but I'm looking at how many people who are watching our content are actually opting in for the thing, or even if they've already been on the list, that they sign up for this new thing so that they can get this email funnel. Email funnels are also very big in my line of work, right? I look at email open rates, bounce rates, unsubscribe rates. And then I also look at website traffic. So this is where Google Analytics come in. I like to look at the amount of people going to the actual web page I need them to. So I never send people directly to a homepage. I always send them to a page that is specific to the campaign. So when I was selling a physical product and affirmation cards, and I said there's a coupon code, okay, well, there was a special page that had the product, the checkout, and the code, so I can know where you came from, versus having you go to a homepage and have to find it. If I'm selling a coaching program, I'm sending you directly to that coaching program sign up page so you can book the consultation. If I send you somewhere else and it takes you more than 1 or 2 clicks to find where I want you to go, you're not going to stay there. You're going to leave. That is proven through data, right? So I look to see who's going, how many people are going to the web page, and then what's the conversion, right? Of that 1,000 people that visited us today, how many of them actually booked an appointment or bought or whatever else? Because that tells me a couple things. If I am getting traffic from social media is working. If I am getting traffic but no sales, the website is not working. So I can diagnose even deeper from what part of the funnel is broken, right? If I'm getting a lot of email opens but not clicks, my call to actions aren't strong enough within that, or there's some formatting issues, but the subject lines are great, right? Because we're getting those opens. And I give you all of that to give you so many different variations of the different types of numbers you could track. I mean, if you have an app, you may track downloads and user rate. And if you have a physical product, you may check, you might track abandoned cart rate at, all of those different things. There's just so many numbers to track in marketing. But in the beginning, I would immerse yourself as much as possible in all of the numbers that are relevant to the campaign you are running and start to track that from there as that your baseline.
Wow, I hope people were able to keep track. Well, like that was wealth of information. We can just end it today, like there, because especially the part of diagnosing the part, similar when a website isn't working in Chrome, you close it, you open it in Firefox. So, well, maybe it's the computer thing. And so figuring out sometimes, especially when time is limited and resources are different, you want to make sure you're spending those two things on the actual problem than something else.
Yes, I've had so many clients say, I'm throwing the whole business away. Nothing is working. When we dive into the numbers, we literally found out that her button didn't work on the website. Like the button on the sales page, and most people, their people are nice, but they're not that nice. They're not going to go out of their way to send an email saying, hey, the button didn't work. But the issue was she didn't optimize for mobile view. So another thing, if you are a new business owner, you have to ensure that everything on your site that works in desktop mode works in in mobile mode, right? And you can even do this from a browser, just YouTube it, because I can't remember the steps, but you can see how it looks on a browser from a phone view. So make sure that if you have an e-commerce store, that we can actually filter and see the shops, we can read the descriptions, we can watch the videos, we can add to cart. The cart actually works when we click on it, so we can check out. That checkout doesn't have a ton of steps, right? That your consultation forms and calendars, all of those things work. It's very tedious, but these are the things that can make or break a buying decision.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I think these websites tell you how much of your traffic came from a desktop and mobile, and I'll save everyone the time to check. A lot of people are going to your website on their phone. So for sure.
The majority of your web traffic is on mobile. And as of 2019 Google data, 52% of online purchases are done via a mobile phone. So
there you go. And now you talked about you having separate campaigns, and I'm wondering for Meredith, when you have campaigns, do you have customer segments, and what are they?
Yeah, we do have customer segments, and depending on the platform that you're running the campaign through, we rely heavily on social media, and in Facebook, there's this very cool segmentation strategy where you can create lookalike audiences, where Facebook sort of pulls people that look and behave like people you are already successful with. And that's a nice way to broaden your reach in a pretty cost-effective, targeted way. And it doesn't require you to be very smart about it. And we found that to be very effective. Now, having said that, you might have to hit a critical mass for that function to actually kick in. Like you just might need enough data. I'm not positive on that. I could be completely wrong about that, but it might be that you can't actually, the AI doesn't have enough data until you reach a certain scale to be effective. But we've found that to be a very helpful tool and way to build effective campaigns and grow our audience.
Great. And speaking of also campaigns, starting out, I know we talked about not spending money, but let's say we're doing an ad or some kind of ad campaign on social media. What should you throw in? $50, $100, $200? How do you determine?
Wow. Well, that's a big question. I mean, it really depends on so many things. And Kyshira, you're so smart about all this. I'm sure you have something smart to say, but I don't think about it in absolute dollar terms. I've always thought about marketing as a percentage of total sales or what your goal is. And I think that helps ground you, especially when you're starting out and you're like, is what I'm about to do crazy? And, you can make a more balanced decision if you say, well, I've set aside 2% of my budget to do this. My revenue goal is this. This is 2% of my budget, and, I'll run it. And if it doesn't work, lesson learned.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, I definitely think it's subjective, and you have to just look at your business, right? Like what's your cash flow looking like? What's your business expenses looking like? And if you haven't included marketing and business expenses, now's a great time to do so, even if funds are limited, because your marketing budget is more than just paid advertising. Marketing includes your website fees, your email marketing fees, your text message marketing fees, your business cards, if we ever get back to using those, right? Like radio ads and sponsorships, like all of those things play a factor. And there's a lot of different things you can consider before paid ads. I don't want to get on that soapbox though. But definitely for me, our marketing budget is around that 10 to 15% a year mark. And then we divide it up by quarter. So we operate on a quarter by quarter project basis, because the way my business has trended over the last 2 years, we move so fast and goals just kind of get conquered faster than we thought. So we're not really married to anything. We just have a rough estimate, right? And then for each quarter, we have like our big marketing project for that quarter. Again, it's just the nature of my business and how clients come in and out. This just makes the most sense for us. And so we just base it off of that. And if we have budget left over from a project, it just moves over to the next quarter. And then from there, we decide if we're going to run paid ads, because there's been times where our marketing expense for a project or a launch has gone towards working with influencers, or has gone towards buying, back in the day, conference sponsorships and conference tables and things like that. So that's how I approach it. And don't be shy about starting with a small budget. This is actually one of the reasons why I love Google Ads, because you have a little bit more control over your budget with Google Ads. I would recommend watching some videos on it before just getting into Google Ads, but you have just way more control, in a sense of, I've used other platforms where you set a budget, but for some reason you always go over it. But with Google, your ad stops. Like if you have a $50 budget and you get $50 in clicks, then you're done until the next month. So you do have to manually turn it off. And Google also only charges you for action. They don't charge you for views. So if you run an ad where your goal is to get phone calls, which you can do, you only get charged if someone clicks the ad and calls you, not if someone sees it and keeps scrolling, which is also very different from other platforms. So I do think that Google Ads may be a good place for someone to start if you are really budget conscious and you want a little bit more control over what's happening.
That's a great point. Meredith, did you have something to add there?
No, I think I really like Kyshira's point about, marketing is far more than paid ads. And so if you really want to tally up all your marketing ads, paid ads are where probably a significant amount of your dollars end up going, but marketing is so much more. And you can do really high impact marketing and never buy a paid ad.
Yep, that's true. There's a question here that we had that I'm just going to answer really quickly, but we received a fair amount, is how do you know which platform or mediums are best for reaching your target customers? It's just customer discovery, right? So what is someone between the ages of 18 and 24, where are they spending most of their time? Is it on social media? Which social media platform? There's a lot of reporting that gives you that insight. McKinsey, Deloitte, EY, offer a lot of consumer reporting and consumer behavior, not only of what the trends are seeing now, but what they expect moving forward, particularly in the pandemic. I would say I've used work time well to learn that, not waste time in that. So consider that. Now, to that point of where do you find information, Kyshira, Meredith, you both have some level of a marketing background, right? But a lot of founders actually are very product, they're the engineer, they're the whatever, they're the creator, but they don't have that storytelling or marketing background. So what would be a reliable place they can start to teach themselves at least enough to get started?
Yeah, I definitely recommend, I'm going to go back to HubSpot because they have such great, thorough free trainings and free blogs, and they're a CRM in themselves, but HubSpot is great for beginners. Additionally, Google has something called Skillshop, which is different than the new certifications. The Skillshop program walks you through things like SEO, Google My Business, Google Ads, how to get found on Google Maps, that type of stuff. And it's very thorough as well. And what I love about those, I've gone through almost every course, is they give you a lot of situational analysis where they're not just saying, hey, come and list your business on Google, which is free, by the way. They're not just saying that. They're saying, here's some examples of different types of businesses and how they would leverage this to get discovered, X, Y, and Z. So I think that's another one. And then also just generally YouTube is a great place, right? There are a lot of marketers who now are content creators who their full-time job is creating content on marketing trends and leveraging certain platforms and how to get, how to get reach and things like that. And obviously the big thing here is I don't think that there's a shortage of resources. I think we just have to manage our time with it, right? Because it's very easy to go down the rabbit hole of information. So just making sure that you're pacing yourself with learning versus implementation. But those would be my recommendations.
What about you?
Great recommendations. I think I would add to that. One of the things that we started doing as a team this year that's been really helpful and inspiring, I think, to all of us is at the end of our weekly marketing meetings, which is, very much, we're going through everything, we're doing some brainstorming. We have a dump of, everyone dumps into a document, photos, images, ideas they've seen from brands they admire. And then we dig in. And if something really clicks, we say, why are they doing this? How are they doing it? How can we copy it? How can we evolve it to our own situation? And, I think it's helpful to do that with brands in your own space, but I think it's also helpful to look across categories at brands that don't have, in categories that don't have any relation to you, and borrow ideas from those, because those, when you do that, I think that's when you have the chance to really move things forward in a unique and interesting way.
Mm-hmm. So I attended the virtual South by Southwest conference a couple of weeks ago. And I think if you were to do a word cloud of at least the sessions that I went to, like the word that came up, particularly when it came to brands and marketing, was authenticity. And for me, sometimes if you talk too much about authenticity, doesn't it just take away about it being authentic? And so if that's a goal or a trend that we're seeing, how can you become authentic without seeming too fabricated, too intentional? And I think that both of you do a great job in being under that umbrella of authenticity and being you.
I think that it really just, it boils down to honoring like the brand, right? The brand you've created, keeping your mission and vision in mind with the new product releases and the campaigns and the things that you choose to do, versus getting so caught up in what everyone else is doing that now you're starting to do it just because, right? Like we're entering this market just because everyone else is, or we're creating this product just because everyone else is, when it may not actually align with your vision, right? Or using certain language or certain things like that. And I feel that this is one of the reasons why influencer marketing is so big, because big brands are trying to figure out how to be more human again, and they're trying to figure out how to infuse more of that authenticity into what they do. So now working with seemingly everyday people, which we could argue about that, but to help with reestablishing their brand authority, like it's such a big deal. But it's also why small businesses have so much opportunity and startups to win, right? Because we are still so close to the ground in the sense of being newer and really attached to what we do, that we have more room to really tell the story within our marketing. So I think that there's definitely an opportunity for us to think about, how are we being authentic to our vision and our values and our mission, right? Thinking about the last 6 months of decisions you made from a marketing standpoint, what actually guided those? Is it simply because this is what the market is doing, so we have to? Or is it, this is going to get us closer to our 1 year, 3 year, 10-year vision? I actually just filmed a video on this before this Zoom earlier. I was filming some micro content, and I was talking about being authentic in your content, just because you may miss out on the actual market you want because you're not conveying the message for that market. You're conveying the message for someone else's market. And even then they still won't really get it, which then leads to frustration, right? So that's just my take on it.
And we have a couple of our entrepreneurs who, Dennis Guy from First Sip, I always point to him, who is one of those people who will not spend any money on marketing, but is everywhere. It gets picked up by national news media as well. And he actually did a competitive analysis, to Meredith's point, looked at other competitors and saw what platforms they were on. And even though he's in some of those platforms, he realized most of them are not on YouTube, and YouTube is being increasingly used. And so he started to create content through YouTube, and it's building momentum through that. So what areas are they not? You got to do that competitive analysis. Where are they not, so that you can fill in that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. Really just being okay with being a leader in your space and the thought leader in your space, and doing something that isn't common or that isn't familiar, and almost being okay with going against the herd, you know what I mean? And one quick plug here is I forgot to mention this for another tool that I think will help with this a lot. It's called Nielsen My Best Segments, which Nielsen data is, they just do so much, but they have a tool called My Best Segments, and you can use the free version for this. They've taken the population of the United States and broken them down into 50 categories of people. And you can filter by whatever your guesses are. So if you feel like your target market is mostly professional women and men with bachelor's degrees and they have a child that tend to live in the suburbs, if you put that in, it'll show you the different groups they fall within, and it'll show you like their life patterns, where they're more likely to live, types of brands that they would like, the cars that they would drive, the food that they like, even the music they would listen to. And you can start to build out your customer segments. And again, in the beginning, just to get started, but then also you can use it to narrow things down even more, especially when it comes to what social platforms are they on altogether. So that's one that I dropped the name in the chat that I wanted to mention again.
And oh my gosh, it's just, I have so many questions and I'm looking at the time and we don't have time, but maybe I'll start with very briefly, anything that you saw out in marketing that you were like, no, don't do that. Everyone here, avoid this.
Buying followers. Please do not buy followers on any platform. And this is very different than historical B2B marketing, where you would buy like consumer list or like lead list. Like that's very different. But a lot of people will buy followers on Instagram because someone allegedly said it gives your brand more prestige to have a lot of followers. But one, you're at risk of your account being shut down, right? Which is embarrassing. So you don't want that. Two, people can tell when you have 100,000 followers and 3 likes on every post. And then 3 is just, again, it's going against that authenticity. So that was, again, one big trend I saw where I'm like, please, please, please never do that. Don't buy followers.
That's a great one. Meredith, what about you?
I would say, in this sort of theme of authenticity, I think that transparency has to go from all the way through the organization. And so whatever you're marketing out to the world, you've got to reflect internally as well. And it's got to be real or it just won't last. And that's, as you build an organization, that can be challenging because to say we're going to be transparent requires a lot of founders and owners, and your team will call you on it if you're not living up to expectations. And so I think to be an effective, authentic marketer, you got to be that as a leader too. That's
so true. And to end it more in a kind of a positive perspective, I always like to end things, what is the future? What's the future? And so I like entrepreneurs to think about being proactive rather than reactive so they can get ahead. So thinking about marketing, we've seen it change a lot. Everything is digital. People are opening up e-commerce sites, getting a social media account, or being more active on it if they didn't before. But whether it's the type of content, the format of the content, the channels, what is the future of marketing that entrepreneurs here can start thinking about now?
Yeah, I think for us, we've realized that, everyone knows, of course, that people are doing more online shopping and living life more online. I think what has surprised us is people's appetite for online communications has also increased. So our digital communications, the discipline around those has also increased and multiplied this year. So, we do something like 4 e-blasts a week across our different segments and entities. And, before the pandemic, we were doing, 2 a month.
Wow.
We've really doubled down or quadrupled down on digital communications in every forum and created, structures to ensure that we're delivering that to folks, because people's appetite for it, not only the shopping and the buying, but the communications and the relating and hearing those stories in that format has also seemed to increase.
Great.
So I have a couple things. First and foremost, one big trend that I think is going to continue to get bigger is the rise of micro content in the form of short videos. So think about TikTok and Reels and things like that. And no, I'm not saying you need to go and dance on TikTok, but I've seen a lot of brands leverage these short videos as almost commercial spots for their products, their services, things like that. I mean, I even saw a Nationwide insurance ad from their platform, on their profile on TikTok, right? And so the point here, though, is how can you concisely deliver your message, right? When you only have 15 to 30 seconds, how can you quickly get the point out? And it is possible, because think about the commercials we see on TV. They've always been that brief, right? We didn't always have 2,000 characters to get the story out as we do with captions and things like that. So start to think about how can you and your team leverage micro content to quickly grab your audience's attention. And if it even makes sense for either you, your team, or you to hire influencers to help with this content. The next thing that I think is really big is people wanting to participate, right? Wanting to feel involved and included, especially with COVID. And I know that things are slowly opening up and the vaccine is rolling out, but it is going to be a while before we get back to fully being normal. So people still want to feel involved in some way. And I know we joke about like Zoom fatigue and things like that, but think about how popular Clubhouse got so fast, right? If you don't know, it's an audio-based app where people can have real conversations and you can listen in, you can chime in. And I mean, everyone from major celebrities, influencers, thought leaders are using this. I mean, there was even a night where the cast of Disney's Lion King on Broadway literally did a live show on Clubhouse, right? So thinking about how can we leverage more unconventional means to engage our audiences and bring them in real time, even if it's something as simple as a live stream Q&A on YouTube to get started, but how can we get them more involved so that they're not just on the receiving end, but they feel like they're included. And then the third thing I'd add here is that video isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And as founders, while you don't have to be the person on camera, you may want to think about how you can leverage some of your budget for something like that. Because when we get back to the authenticity and customers wanting to know who they're supporting and who they're buying from and how are things made and produced and things like that, that's where things like YouTube and Facebook Watch and things like that for behind the scenes style videos or product release videos or how we package and ship type videos, even to Meredith's point, your educational videos, which is what I do, right? The teaching, the storytelling, the engaging. I'm going to wrap up, I promise, but there's a museum in Sacramento who just birthed new life into their business because they started to use TikTok to tell stories about the stuff in the museum, right? One of their volunteers, a gentleman named Howard, is literally social media famous now because he kept telling stories about the history of like printing newspapers, right? You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And now people are literally from out of the country wanting to fly here to go to this Sacramento museum, right? And that's just them being authentic. They didn't get online and dance and do anything crazy. They just said, hey, here's what we're about. Here's our artifacts. Here's what we teach. And they blew up. So I encourage you to not be afraid to get creative with how you're choosing to connect with your audiences. And these three things are not going anywhere anytime soon. So I'd get with it sooner rather than later.
All really great. And I think that's the perfect way to end this session. Thank you both. I really appreciate your time. So much knowledge. I saved the chat because it's just so many links, so many good things. And we recorded this, and I'm sure we'll share more kind of bite-sized pieces of this real talk on social media for people to consume as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. See everybody next time.
Thank you.